We Dream a World, African-American Landscape Painters of Mid-Century Florida, features artists Alfred Hare, Mary Ann Carroll, Harold Newton, Willie Daniels, Roy McClendon, and Sam Newton. These artists were living and painting the Florida landscape in the late 1950s and 60s during the segregation of the Jim Crow era and against the backdrop of the civil rights and Black Power movements. These entrepreneurial artists lived in a time and place where most African American men and women in Florida struggled to find employment opportunities outside of orange groves and tomato fields. You may know this group of African American landscape artists from Fort Pierce as the Highwaymen. It is important to recognize that this group of artists did not develop this name. It was coined by a gallery owner in the 1990s when he came across several paintings and began learning about the artists. He was intrigued by the artists' method of selling their paintings door to door along the highways of Florida's East Coast, stacking the often still wet paintings in the back of their vehicles, protected by their homemade crown molding frames. The gallery owner called this group of artists the Highwaymen. These artists made a good living selling their paintings to white-owned businesses to be hung in waiting rooms and hotels. There are a lot of people from Florida who may be familiar with the stories of these artists. In the We Dream a World exhibit, we are adding a new layer with curator Radia Levitt-Harper's perspective. She explores the role of community in giving these artists their start, as well as the importance of seeing each of these artists as individuals with their own stories and artistic styles. These landscape artists were more of a loose community than a formal collective, and we would like to invite you to examine each of these artists as individuals. Let us take a deeper look at the paintings in the exhibition and explore what makes 3 of these artists unique. Mary Ann is known for her love of deeply saturated color. In this painting, you can see how much she appreciates the warmth of orange in capturing the golden quality of Florida's sky as the sun sets. How do you feel when you look at this painting? In this group of paintings, can you guess which other work may have been painted by Mary Ann Carroll? If you guessed this one, Royal Poinciana on the Indian River, you are right. This work was painted by Harold Newton. He invites the viewer right into the scene as if you are there standing on the very edge where the waves are breaking. What do you feel when you look at this painting? What sounds can you imagine? What smell might you smell? How might your skin feel? Several of Harold Newton's works in this exhibition are of Florida's waterways. Harold Newton and Alfred Hare are considered 2 of the first highwaymen. Radia Levitt-Harper notes that the story of these artists started with a Black woman. Alfred Hare got his start with the help of Mrs. Zenobia Jefferson, a sculptor and art teacher at Lincoln Park Academy, the Fort Pierce all-Black school. Alfred took extra classes with Mrs. Jefferson, and as his talent took shape, she connected him with A.E. Beanie Bacchus, a well-known local white landscape painter. Alfred crossed the color line for a vocational education in Bacchus's studio. Alfred went on to set up his own studio and teach other painters in his community to capture Florida's landscape. Alfred Hare is known for his quick work with a palette knife. In this painting, he created arching tree trunks and branches with his palette knife. Do you recognize the tree with red blooms that is featured in this painting? It is a Royal Poinciana. Alfred Hare painted many versions of Royal Poinciana trees during his career. How do these works by Alfred Hare differ from the works of Mary Ann Carroll and Harold Newton? You can see Alfred Hare and Mary Ann Carroll's unique styles in the way that they each capture the beauty of the Royal Poinciana. What can you see in these paintings? Notice the differences in the textured strokes of the palette knife and their choices of color. Each of these artists captured their own versions of Florida's mid-century landscape, its backyards, rivers, swamps, and coastlines. Many of these paintings provide insight to natural spaces that have disappeared with development. In this virtual exploration, we focused on Mary Ann Carroll, Alfred Hare, and Harold Newton, but there are 3 other artists, Willie Daniels, Roy McClendon, and Sam Newton, who are also featured in We Dream a World. We welcome you to view the full exhibition and familiarize yourself with all of these incredible landscape artists.